Assalamu alaikum. My name is Zoya Ali Waqas. I'm 17 years old. I'm a student of Learning Alliance International, and I'm also going into my final year of high school. Another thing that you should know about me is that I'm a Kashmiri and I wish to pursue law in the future for reasons that you can probably assume. Although I must confess, this part of my identity remained in the backdrop for a significant portion of my life. I was culturally aware of it, of course, but it was not until the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A in 2019, at which point I was also mature enough that I began to reflect on the plight of Kashmiri people. Afterwards, I poured myself into research. I connected with various Kashmiri people on social media. I had the opportunity to study Kashmiri history extensively. And this, of course, includes not just the history of Kashmir itself, but the history of all the actors, state and non-state, involved in Kashmir, or perhaps whose lack of involvement has proven to be so perilous. All of these efforts eventually galvanized in the form of my personal project, which was a mini graphic novel that I wrote and designed on occupation in Kashmir. Now that I am a student in the diploma program and studying global politics, I've also chosen to do Settler Colonialism in Kashmir as my internal assessment. And this has allowed me to connect with various Kashmiri academics and journalists, the likes of which who have worked with Al Jazeera and who are published authors. Coming back to the issue of Kashmir itself, Kashmir has been on the UN's agenda for 7 decades. Kashmiris have been suffering for much longer. Now, in 2022, in Kashmir, civil and political rights, social and cultural rights, collective rights are all undermined. Bit by bit, Kashmir's autonomy has been stripped from it. Bit by bit, the Kashmiri identity has been diluted by the Indian identity as a method of survival. And there is a certain complacency, there is a certain silence from the international community that has allowed this to happen, at least at the pace at which it has happened. It must be rectified. It must be addressed. The protection of a nation's status, sovereignty, and legitimacy must expand to include the global south. Through my research, I actually reflected on something which was really daunting to hear. When I was interviewing these academic scholars and journalists, they told me something which was really haunting almost. They told me that according to the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, if I was conducting this interview in Kashmir, I could be arrested for it. And really, when we take all of this into consideration, we can understand that the entire reason that I want to go into international law now is because I feel that this entire complacency must be addressed, that I must be able to take a stand to include an entire portion of the world into the loop of justice, because the second that law is inaccessible, it is undermined. A message that I have for the youth is more of a request than a message. I ask that they take a stand where they see justice occurring. I ask that they educate themselves. The one thing as the upcoming generation that we cannot allow ourselves to become is desensitized to violence, desensitized to suffering, especially that of our own people, just because this is how it has been for the past few centuries, does not mean this is how we should allow it to continue. As the upcoming generation, it is our responsibility to make a change.